Saris had forgotten when the days first began to blend together. On the Kirilon outpost, time moved in straight lines, quiet, cold, and without feeling. The metal halls never changed, the white lights never dimmed, and the same low hum always floated in the air, like a quiet reminder that nothing in this place belonged to her. She lived in a small room, square, plain, and almost empty. It was not a prison in the human sense. The door opened and closed without locks, and no guard stood outside. But Saris knew she could not leave. The Kirilons did not need force to keep someone in place. Their rules, their expectations, and their calm, emotionless voices kept her still more effectively than any wall. To them, Saris was not a person. She was a biological unit. She had heard that phrase many times. A unit that helped check sensors, carry tools, and perform tasks the overseers did not want to spend processing time on. They never shouted at her or showed anger. Kirilons did not show any emotion. They did not smile, laugh, or frown. They simply existed, always focused, always logical. Saris often wondered if they even noticed her feelings, the small things that made life warm. Wonder, curiosity, comfort, friendship. She had not felt any of those for a long time. Every morning, an overseer visited her room. It floated on thin mechanical limbs, its glowing eyes shifting with a steady rhythm. Its voice never changed tone. "Unit Saris, your function cycle begins." Saris always answered politely. "I understand." Her voice was soft now. It had once been bright, full of hope and excitement, back when she had lived on her homeworld. Back when she believed the galaxy was full of adventure. Back when she thought that helping explore the stars would bring her pride. Instead, it brought her here. The overseers never explained why they kept her. They did not threaten her. They simply assigned her tasks, one after another, as if she were a small tool that did not need to know the reason behind anything. The tasks were never dangerous. She checked temperatures, moved containers, cleaned panels, carried simple equipment. The jobs were small, but they took many hours. The overseers valued efficiency above all else. Saris was slow because she was living, and living beings tired. But she never complained. There was no one to complain to. The other workers, different alien species from different places, rarely spoke. Many were quiet like her, unsure if it was safe to express their thoughts. The Kirilons expected silent obedience, so everyone kept their voices low. Sometimes Saris tried to speak to them, even just to say hello, but the conversations never lasted long. They were all afraid of breaking rules they did not fully understand. And so, the days continued in the same pattern. Work, silence, return to the small room, rest, repeat. Saris did not feel anger or hatred. She mostly felt small, as if her identity had faded until she was only a shape that moved when instructed. Yet somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of hope remained. She kept it safe, hidden in her heart. She told herself that one day something might change, even if she could not imagine how. That spark grew slightly brighter one evening when she finished her tasks early. The overseer, seeing she had completed her cycle ahead of time, paused for a moment. The lights on its face shifted. "Unexpected efficiency," it said. "Return to rest station." Saris nodded and walked down the quiet halls. She moved slowly, not because she was tired, but because she wanted to see something different, anything different. On her way back, she passed a wide window overlooking the stars. Stars. Endless, beautiful, gentle dots of light. They comforted her. They reminded her that somewhere far away, someone else might be looking at these same stars. Someone free, someone happy. She placed her hand on the cold glass and closed her eyes. For a moment, she imagined herself somewhere else. She imagined walking on soft soil, feeling the sun, hearing the wind. When she opened her eyes again, she saw something unusual. A faint light blinked on the far side of the outpost's communication tower. Saris tilted her head. She had worked here long enough to know the signals. This one was not Kirillon. The color was different, softer, warmer. A distress signal. Her heart beat a little faster. Had someone sent it? Had someone answered it? She could not tell. She did not have access to communication systems, and the overseers rarely discussed anything not directly related to her tasks. Still, the blinking light stayed in her mind long after she returned to her room. That night, she could not sleep. She lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts raced quietly. What if someone is coming? What if someone heard the signal? What if things change? She did not dare to hope too strongly. Hope, when too bright, could hurt more when it faded. But the small spark inside her warmed. The next morning, she woke before the overseer arrived. She washed her face, straightened her simple uniform, and waited. Her heart felt lighter for reasons she could not explain. The overseer floated in on schedule. "Unit Series, your function cycle begins." "Yes," she replied softly. Her tasks began as usual. But today she felt more aware of everything. The light footsteps of the other workers, the soft hum of the machines, the far-off rumble of ships docking and leaving. In the past, these sounds were background noise. But today, she listened. She listened because something inside her whispered that the world outside this outpost was moving, changing, living in ways she had forgotten. Then, as she reached the central hall with a small toolkit in her hands, she heard something new. It was a sound she had not heard in years. Voices, but not the flat metallic tones of overseers. These voices were warm, alive, and filled with emotion. Human voices. Saris froze. Her eyes widened. She had never seen a human in person. She had heard stories, though. Stories spoken quietly by workers who had traveled once, long before they came to Kirillon space. Humans were known for their boldness, their unpredictable nature, and above all, their strong belief in treating others as equals. She could not imagine anyone more opposite from the Kirillons. Saris slowly stepped forward and peered around the corner. A group of 3 humans stood near the main terminal. They wore dark uniforms with a familiar symbol on the shoulder, a rising star inside a circle, the symbol of the exploration ship Horizon's Light. Her breath caught. What were they doing here? This outpost almost never received visitors, especially not humans. The overseers disliked emotional species, calling them unbalanced factors. Humans, with their boldness and emotions, were probably the last species the overseers wished to interact with. An overseer approached the humans, its voice calm. "State your purpose." One of the humans, a tall man with calm eyes, stepped forward. "I am Captain Aiden Holt of Horizon's Light," he said. "We're here because we detected a distress signal coming from this outpost." A distress signal. Saris's heart jumped. The overseer's lights flickered. "Your assumptions are incorrect. There is no situation requiring assistance." Holt did not step back. His tone did not rise, but it did not soften either. "We would still like to confirm the safety of all living workers. Standard interspecies protocol." Saris felt something unfamiliar, a gentle shock. Someone was asking about the safety of workers? On this outpost? The overseers never considered such matters. The overseer answered, "All units are functioning within acceptable parameters." Holt's expression tightened slightly. "That is not the answer I asked for." Saris stared. She had never seen anyone challenge a Kirillon overseer. Their logic and authority were rarely questioned, but this human did not move. He simply held his ground, steady and calm. Saris's fingers trembled slightly around her toolkit. She did not know why, but something inside her whispered, "He is different. They are different. This could change everything." Before she could stop herself, she stepped out from behind the corner. The overseer turned its glowing eyes toward her. Unit Saris. Resume tasks. Saris opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at the humans, unsure if she should speak. Captain Holt noticed her. And for the first time in years, someone looked at Saris not as a unit, not as a tool, but as a person. His gaze was warm, gentle, full of recognition. "Hello," he said with a small smile. "Are you all right?" It was such a simple question, yet it felt like sunlight after a long, cold winter. Saris did not know how to answer. No one had asked her that in so long. The overseer moved slightly between them. "Do not interact with workers. Their communication is unnecessary." Holt did not raise his voice. He did not step forward, but his next words carried quiet strength. "I think it is necessary." Saris felt her heart lift. For the first time, she believed the spark inside her might finally grow into something real. Saris stood frozen in the center of the bright hall, unable to move or speak. She did not understand why her heart felt lighter or why her hands suddenly stopped trembling. The humans stood only a few steps away, but to Saris, the distance felt like a bridge between two different worlds. Hers, quiet and colorless, and theirs, warm and full of life. Captain Aiden Holt continued to look at her with calm, steady eyes. There was no judgment, no cold analysis, no attempt to measure her worth. He simply waited for her answer. It was the first time in years that someone had shown her such patience. Saris opened her mouth, but her voice barely rose above a whisper. I think I am fine." The words felt strange. She said them because they were safe, not because they were true. The overseer moved between Saris and the humans once more. "Unit Saris must resume tasks. Unnecessary interaction will slow efficiency." Holt did not argue loudly or react with frustration. He only folded his hands behind his back and spoke with calm firmness. "We follow interspecies laws," he said, "and those laws allow us to check on the well-being of any living worker in distress." "There is no distress," the overseer replied. Holt studied Saris again. She stood stiffly, her shoulders low, her eyes dim, her expression trained not to show her emotions. The overseer considered this normal, but Holt saw something different. He saw a person trying to hide years of silence behind polite obedience. He turned back to the overseer. "May I speak to her for a moment? Just a few questions." The overseer's lights flickered in a slow pattern. "Permission denied." Holt did not step back. "Why?" "Because communication is unnecessary." "Unnecessary to whom?" Holt asked calmly. The overseer paused. Kirillons rarely faced questions they did not predict. Saris watched closely. No one had ever questioned an overseer on her behalf. She felt a soft warmth spread through her chest, unfamiliar but comforting. She did not know if she should hope, but the feeling grew anyway. One of the other humans, a woman with short dark hair, glanced at Saris with gentle concern. "We only want to make sure she is safe," she said softly. The overseer finally responded. "All units are safe." Holt's expression remained controlled, but something in his eyes sharpened. "That is your definition of safe. I would like to hear hers." Saris's breath caught. Nobody had ever asked for her definition of anything. Holt did not look away from the overseer. "If she chooses to speak to us, you have no right to stop her." The overseer's lights flickered again. "This conversation is inefficient." "Sometimes the right thing is not efficient," Holt replied. Saris felt her heart jump. She had never heard anyone talk to an overseer like that. Calm, respectful, but completely unafraid. The overseer slowly rotated, its voice colder, or as close to cold as a Kirillon could sound. "State your question. Keep it minimal." Holt nodded once. "Thank you." He stepped slightly to the side so that Saris was no longer hiding behind the overseer's metal frame. His voice softened. "Saris, is there anything you want to tell me? Anything you need?" Saris swallowed. So many thoughts filled her head. Years of loneliness, quiet hopes, hidden fears. But she could not let them out. Not here. Not with the overseer watching. I don't know," she whispered. "That's all right," Holt said gently. "Take your time." Saris felt a surprising sting behind her eyes, something like tears trying to rise. She quickly looked down. She did not want to look weak in front of strangers, but Holt did not seem to judge her. Another overseer approached from the far end of the hall. "Captain Holt, the Kirillon administration requests that your inspection be completed quickly." Holt turned to the new overseer. "We're not inspecting machinery. We're checking on the well-being of living individuals. That can't be rushed." "Emotional species often delay processes," the overseer said. One of Holt's crew, a young man with light hair, smiled a little. "That's called caring." The overseer ignored him. Saris watched this interaction with amazement. The humans were not afraid of the Kirillons at all. They didn't shout or threaten them. They simply disagreed, directly, calmly, fearlessly. To Saris, this felt like something powerful, something she had never experienced. Choice, voice, dignity. Kirillons valued none of these, but humans valued them all. The overseer's lights glowed brighter. "Captain Holt, your request for private communication is denied." Holt pressed his lips together. He remained polite, but Saris saw the determination in his eyes. He was not going to walk away. "I'll still ask," Holt said softly to Saris. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but the choice should be yours." Saris had never been given a choice before. Even the simplest decisions, where to walk, when to rest, what to think, had been shaped by Kirillon expectations. The thought scared her, but it also made her feel taller, as if an invisible weight had lifted from her shoulders. She looked up. I would like to speak to you." The overseer's lights flashed rapidly. "This is outside protocol." Holt raised a hand. She made a choice. Saris felt her breath tremble. She had spoken, and no one had stopped her. It felt like opening a door she thought would always be locked. Holt gestured gently. "Let's step to the side. Only a few words." The overseer hesitated. Kirillons rarely understood how to handle choices made by emotional species. Their rules did not account for moments like this. Finally, the overseer stepped back, but kept its glowing eyes on them. Holt and his two crew members moved with Saris toward a quiet corner of the hall. The overseers stood at a distance, watching but not interrupting. Holt crouched slightly so he could meet Saris's eyes without looming over her. "You don't have to be afraid," he said gently. "We're here to help." Saris touched her fingers together nervously. Why would humans come here?" Holt smiled lightly, not out of amusement but reassurance. "Because someone sent a distress signal." Saris's breath caught. "You saw it?" "Yes," Holt said. "A small beacon from this outpost reached us, and humans don't ignore a call for help." Saris felt her heart move in her chest almost painfully. "But Kirillons don't allow distress signals." "We know," Holt said, "which is why we came." Saris looked away, fear creeping back. "If you help me, they might not allow it." Holt shook his head. "They don't get to decide everything, not when someone's life is affected." Saris blinked slowly. "Life." She whispered the word as if testing it. "The overseers never speak about life, only tasks." "That's not how it should be," Holt said, and his tone was gentle but firm. "You're not a task. You're a person." Something inside Saris cracked open, like a small locked door finally moving after many years. She had always known she was a person. but no one had said it out loud in so long that she had begun to forget. She whispered, "I don't want to stay here." Holt nodded slowly. "Then we'll help you." The words felt impossible, too bright, too hopeful. Sarah shook her head nervously. "The overseers will refuse." "They can refuse," Holt said, "but they can't control your choice. We'll follow every legal step, every code, every rule. And if they deny your freedom, we'll challenge it." Saris had never seen anyone stand for her before. The idea felt strange, almost unreal. "Why would you help someone you don't know?" she asked. Holt's answer came without hesitation. "Because no one deserves to feel alone." Saris felt a warm wave spread through her chest. Her throat tightened, but her voice remained soft. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything yet," Holt replied. "Just know you're not alone anymore." His crew members nodded kindly. The woman spoke gently. "We'll take care of everything. You only need to tell us what you want." Saris closed her eyes for a moment. She breathed deeply, letting the warm air fill her lungs. It was the first breath in years that didn't feel heavy. When she opened her eyes, she whispered, "I want to go with you." The overseers, still watching from a distance, immediately began to move closer, their lights flashing. But Saris did not step back. For the first time, she stood her ground. Holt stood beside her. "She made her choice," he said calmly, "and we respect it." The overseers stopped a few steps away. They did not understand emotions, but they understood intention. And Holt's intention was clear. Saris looked up at Holt. In that moment, she felt something she had not felt for a long time. Hope. This was the moment her life began to change. Slowly, gently, and without fear. The decision Saris made, her quiet but firm wish to leave the Kirillan outpost, changed the atmosphere of the entire hall. The overseers, who normally moved with slow, predictable motions, suddenly seemed more alert. Their glowing eyes brightened and dimmed in rapid patterns as they processed the unexpected event. To them, Saris's choice was not emotional. It was a disruption in their calculations. A unit deciding her own path was something their rules did not cover. Captain Aiden Holt stood beside Saris with calm confidence. Nothing about his posture was aggressive or confrontational, but he radiated a steady determination that made the overseers pause. He turned slightly toward Saris. "We'll do this the right way," he said softly. "We won't rush. We'll follow every law, every code. They can't deny you forever." Saris nodded, though worry still lingered in her eyes. She had never imagined a future away from the outpost. The idea felt bright but fragile, like a new flame in a cold room. The leading overseer approached. "Unit Saris cannot leave. She is necessary for tasks." Holt folded his arms calmly. "What tasks?" The overseer paused. Kirillans were not used to being questioned. "Maintenance tasks." Holt nodded. "Which ones exactly?" Another pause. "General tasks." Holt tilted his head slightly, and the small smile on his lips was not rude. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. "So nothing specific," he said. The overseers exchanged flashes of light. Saris had seen them communicate like this many times. Silent, instant, mechanical. Finally, the overseer answered, "Unit Saris performs tasks at various times. Removal will lower efficiency." Holt raised one eyebrow. "Efficiency according to whose standards?" Saris watched in awe as Holt calmly dismantled the overseer's logic. He wasn't loud. He wasn't forceful. He simply asked questions the overseers were not prepared for. One of Holt's crew members, the woman named Rhea, stepped forward with a small device in her hand. "I've reviewed your worker logs," she said politely. "Saris has been overworking. Rest cycles are shorter than interspecies laws require. The overseer's lights flickered. Her rest is sufficient. Sufficient for your standards, Rhea replied. Not for legal standards. The young crewman, Taryn, added. She also doesn't receive optional breaks. No recreational time, no communication privileges. That alone is enough for a full review. The overseer responded. These functions are unnecessary to task completion. Holt stepped closer, not in an aggressive way, but in a way that made his presence impossible to ignore. You keep using the word unit. I believe the correct term is living worker. Living workers have rights. Saris felt her heart grow warm again. She had never been defended like this. For the first time, she realized something important. Humans didn't just care. They understood law, fairness, and choices. They used logic in their own way, but unlike the Kirillons, their logic always included compassion. Holt took out a small tablet and tapped it. Under the Interstellar Living Worker Act, Section 12, any living worker who expresses a desire to leave must be given an open hearing. The overseer paused. This is not a hearing station. It doesn't have to be, Holt replied. We can hold the hearing right here. I'm authorized. Saris stared. She did not know humans could create hearings in any location. The overseer responded, Your authorization must be verified. Go ahead, Holt said. Send the request. The overseers turned slightly, the lights on their heads flashing rapidly. They were communicating with their central network. Saris could guess what they were sending: requests for confirmation, instructions, data checks. Taryn whispered to Rhea, They'll take a while. Kirillon communication always does. Rhea nodded. They overthink everything. Saris listened quietly. She almost smiled. It was strange to hear someone speak casually near an overseer. It felt like being in two worlds at once. The silent, emotionless world she had lived in for years, and the warm, free world the humans carried with them. After several long seconds, the overseer turned back. Your authorization is valid. Good, Holt said with a nod. Then let's begin. The overseer's lights flickered. She is required for tasks. Holt shook his head gently. Not anymore. She has exercised her right to choose. Saris tried to stand a little straighter. She wanted to look brave, even if she was scared. The overseer continued. Her removal will reduce outpost productivity. Holt replied, Living beings are not tools for productivity. They have value beyond tasks. Saris had heard these words before in stories, but hearing them spoken for her made her chest tighten. She felt like she was learning her own identity again, piece by piece. Taryn opened a document on his tablet. We are officially requesting the release of worker Saris under Section 3, voluntary transfer. The overseer turned to him. Denied. Holt stepped forward. You can only deny if you have a reason. We have reason. What reason? Holt asked. The overseer paused. Loss of efficiency. Holt exhaled softly. Efficiency is not a valid reason when it contradicts interspecies rights. The overseer shifted its glowing eyes between the three humans, trying to calculate their responses. Your presence is causing delay. Taryn shrugged. We don't mind. Rhea smiled politely. We can stay as long as needed. Saris looked at them with quiet amazement. She had never seen anyone remain so calm in front of the overseers. Their confidence spread through her like warm light. Holt held up a new file on his tablet. I'm filing a formal complaint. The overseer's lights flashed sharply. A complaint? Yes, Holt said. We are reporting improper working conditions. Saris's eyes widened. The overseers hated inefficiency, but they hated official reports even more. Reports meant attention from higher authorities. Attention that might question their decisions. The overseers exchanged rapid flickers of colored light. Saris had never seen them communicate so quickly. Finally, the leading overseer spoke. Your complaint will slow outpost functioning. Holt nodded calmly. Then we should resolve this quickly. The overseer paused. Then, in a tone that almost sounded uncertain, it said, "We request conclusion." Holt nodded. "Then agree to her release." There was a long, tense silence. Saris held her breath. The overseer's lights slowly dimmed. "We agree." Saris blinked in disbelief. Did she hear correctly? Was this real? The overseer continued, "Unit Saris will be transferred to Horizon's Light." Saris's heart jumped. It felt unreal, too bright, too sudden. She looked at Holt, her eyes wide with emotion. Holt gave her a small, reassuring nod. "That means you're free to come with us." Saris felt her knees weaken slightly. She had imagined freedom many times, but the imagination had always felt like a distant dream. Now, it was unfolding right in front of her. The overseers stepped back to open a pathway. Their movements were slow, almost reluctant, as if they still did not fully understand why this was happening. Holt extended his hand. "Come with us, Saris." The gesture was simple, but to Saris, it felt like the most important moment of her life. She hesitated only for a second before placing her hand in his. The warmth of his hand surprised her. Kirillon metal halls were always cold. For years, she had known only cold surfaces, cold lights, cold voices. The simple warmth of another person felt like sunlight. As they began walking down the hall, other workers quietly watched. Some looked hopeful, some looked amazed, some simply stared in disbelief. Saris wished she could tell them that humans could help them too someday. The outpost door opened with a soft hiss, revealing the docking bay. The human ship Horizon's Light stood tall and bright compared to the dark, plain Kirillon designs. It looked alive, lights moving gently, engines humming with warm sound. Saris felt something rise in her chest. Wonder. She whispered, "It's beautiful." Holt smiled. "Welcome to a new chapter of your life." As they stepped aboard, Saris felt the air change. Warmer, softer, full of quiet voices, laughter in the distance, and a sense of freedom she had never known. The door closed behind them. Saris did not look back. For the first time in many years, she felt something clear and bright inside her. Hope was no longer a small spark. Now, it was a growing light. The morning on the quiet forest world began with a pale blue sky and soft winds brushing through the tall silver trees. Arya stood outside Ethan's small shelter, staring at the horizon where the twin moons slowly faded into daylight. For the first time in many years, she felt something new in her chest, an emotion she almost did not recognize. Hope. Ethan stepped out beside her, holding a warm cup of tea. He offered it to her without a word. She took it carefully, still adjusting to simple kindness. "Did you sleep?" he asked gently. Arya nodded. "A little. I still wake up sometimes, expecting the old sounds." She did not say more. She didn't need to. Ethan understood. He always understood. He didn't ask for painful details. He didn't push. He simply stood beside her, giving her the quiet company she needed. Arya looked out at the forest again. "This place feels peaceful." "It's safe," Ethan said, "and it will stay safe." His words had a calm strength that always surprised her. Humans were strange to her, gentle and fierce at the same time. She found herself trusting Ethan more with each passing day, even when she did not understand why. The visitors arrived later that afternoon. While Arya and Ethan repaired equipment near the workshop, a soft alarm blinked inside the shelter. Ethan glanced at the screen. "Someone landed nearby." Arya immediately froze. Her shoulders tightened, and her hands trembled slightly. A flash of old fear passed through her, but Ethan quickly placed a steadying hand on her arm. "It's okay," he said. They're friendly. Arya didn't speak, but her eyes asked the question. My team from the fleet, Ethan explained. They probably came to check on me, and to see you. She swallowed. To see me? Don't worry, they're good people. But Arya wasn't sure. She had lived too long surrounded by unkindness. Meeting new faces was still hard, yet she trusted Ethan, and so she took a slow breath and followed him outside. 3 humans approached through the trees. They wore light explorer suits and calm expressions. Ethan lifted a hand in greeting. Commander Hale, he called. Good to see you. The older woman leading the group smiled. Ethan, your message said you found someone in distress. We wanted to offer help. Arya stepped partly behind Ethan. Hale noticed this and softened her posture. Hello, she said in a warm, steady tone. My name is Mira Hale. We're not here to harm you, only to support you. Arya nodded politely but kept quiet. She did not hide because she was weak. She hid because she didn't yet know who she could trust. Hale spoke carefully. If you're comfortable, may we talk? Only at your pace. Ethan gave Arya a small nod. They're here for you, not against you. Arya hesitated, then stepped forward. Thank you, she said quietly. Hale smiled. Of course. A choice she had never been given. They all sat around a portable heater Ethan set outside. The evening breeze cooled the air, and long shadows stretched through the forest. Hale and her team explained they were gathering information to help Arya find a new future. Not forcing, not controlling, just offering. Hale asked simple questions: name, age, homeworld. Whenever Arya paused, Hale waited patiently. Whenever Arya looked unsure, Hale gently changed the topic. Not once did she push. After some time, Hale asked, What would you like to do from here? We can bring you to a city where you can receive care and support. Or you can stay with Ethan if you prefer. The choice is yours. Arya stared at her in shock. Choice. No one had ever asked her what she wanted. She looked down at her hands, then at Ethan. His expression held no expectation, no pressure, only trust. Arya looked back at Hale. I don't know what I want yet, she admitted. That's okay, Hale replied softly. You don't need to decide today. You simply need to know the decision belongs to you. Arya breathed slowly. The air tasted different when she realized she was free to choose her own path. A walk under the twilight sky. After the meeting ended, Arya walked a little distance away from the shelter. The twilight sky was deep blue with streaks of gold, and the gentle hum of night creatures echoed in the trees. She felt light and heavy at the same time, free but unsure. Ethan joined her quietly. You handled that well, he said. Arya smiled faintly. I wasn't sure what to say. They asked me about my future. I never had a future before. Only hours, one after another. Ethan nodded slowly. Now you can decide what tomorrow looks like. Arya looked up at the sky. It feels strange. Not bad, just new. They stood together beneath the dimming light, the forest whispering around them. Ethan, Arya said softly, why are humans like this? Like what? So patient. So different. He thought for a moment. Maybe because we know what it feels like to fight for a better life. Humanity has had its own difficult history. Our strength doesn't come from power. It comes from choosing kindness even when the world is harsh. Arya considered his words. You believe kindness is strength? Yes, he said. It takes courage to heal, and you're doing that every day. Arya blinked. She had been called many things in her life, but never strong, until now. The night of truth. Later that night, Arya could not sleep. She walked to the edge of the tree line where soft light spilled from the shelter's windows. The faint glow made her feel safe. Not trapped. Safe. She touched the small metallic bracelet on her wrist, the last physical symbol of her old life. She had kept it not because it comforted her, but because she didn't know how to let go. Ethan found her standing there. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. Arya shook her head. He stepped beside her without crowding. "Want to talk?" She took a deep breath. "Ethan, I don't know how to live without fear. Even when I'm safe, my mind still expects danger." "That's normal," he said gently. "Fear doesn't disappear in a day." She looked up at him. "Then how do I stop it?" "You don't force it," he replied. "You walk forward anyway. Fear gets smaller with time, and you don't have to do it alone." Arya's voice wavered. "Will you stay with me until I learn how to stand without fear?" Ethan nodded. "As long as you want." Her chest felt warm. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness but from relief. "Then, I want to stay here," she whispered. "With you. At least for now." Ethan smiled softly. "I'm glad." Arya felt something shift inside her, something gentle and brave. It was not dependency. It was not fear. It was the feeling of having a place in the world. A place where she mattered. Breaking the last chain, Arya unclasped the old metal bracelet from her wrist, the final symbol of her past. She held it for a long moment in her palm. "This was the last chain," she said quietly. Ethan watched her without speaking, letting her choose what to do with it. Arya placed the bracelet on the ground and stepped away. For the first time, she felt truly free. She breathed in deeply, the forest air cool and clean. Ethan said softly, "This is the beginning, Arya, not the end." She turned toward him, a small but real smile forming. "Yes," she said, "my beginning." Together they walked back toward the warm light of the shelter. Her new life had already started. The sun rose gently over the silver forest, painting warm colors across the sky. Thin beams of gold filtered through the leaves and rested softly on the small shelter where Arya now lived. She stepped outside and looked around, feeling the cool morning air against her skin. For the first time in many years, she didn't feel trapped between fear and uncertainty. Instead, she felt steady. She felt alive. Inside the shelter, Ethan prepared breakfast. Arya could hear the quiet sounds of pans, water boiling, and soft humming. She smiled. There was something peaceful about simple mornings like this. Nothing dangerous, nothing loud, just calm. Ethan stepped out with 2 cups of warm tea. "Morning," he said with his usual kind smile. "Morning," Arya replied, accepting the cup. They stood side by side, watching the early light dance across the trees. "You look rested," Ethan said. Arya nodded. "I slept well, maybe for the first time in years." "That's good," Ethan said softly, relief in his voice. Arya glanced at him. She had grown used to his calm expression, his steady tone, and the way he always gave her space. He never treated her like someone broken. He treated her like someone learning to live again, and that made all the difference. A message from the fleet. After breakfast, a soft beep echoed from the communication unit. Ethan checked the screen and turned to Arya. "It's Commander Hale," he said. "She wants to visit again." Arya took a slow breath. She wasn't frightened, but the idea of meeting officials still made her nervous. Ethan noticed. "If you want, I can ask her to come later," he said gently. Arya shook her head. "It's okay. I want to meet her. I'm ready." Ethan nodded with approval. "That's a big step, Arya." She didn't say anything, but inside she felt a spark of pride. Within an hour, Hale arrived with her 2 officers. They approached slowly, making sure Arya didn't feel overwhelmed. "Hello, Arya," Hale said warmly. "You look brighter today." Arya smiled shyly. "Thank you." "We're here to talk about your future," Hale continued. But only if you're comfortable. Arya nodded. I'm ready. They all sat outside under the trees, the forest humming quietly around them. The offer. Hale opened her digital tablet. We can provide you with temporary settlement papers, she explained. That means you can live anywhere within the fleet's territory. You'll have access to education, support centers, and anything you need. Arya listened carefully. And if I want to stay here? Hale smiled. Then you stay. The choice is yours. Arya's fingers tightened slightly on her knees. She still wasn't used to this kind of freedom, but she appreciated it deeply. There is also a second option, Hale continued. We could offer you training on a research station or a learning center. You are intelligent and observant. You could build a new career if you want. Arya felt overwhelmed by the possibilities. A future with choices. A future with opportunities. It felt unreal. Ethan placed a supportive hand on the table, not touching her, but close enough to remind her he was with her. What do you feel? He asked softly. Arya took a long breath and answered honestly. I want to stay here for now, she said. This place feels safe, and I want to learn slow. Hale nodded with respect. That is a wise decision. Healing takes time. Arya looked at Ethan. And Ethan helps me feel brave. Hale's eyes softened. I can see that. Arya's cheeks warmed slightly, but she didn't turn away. She wasn't ashamed of trusting him. The first task of her new life. Later that afternoon, after Hale and her team left, Arya walked with Ethan to the garden area he had been trying to maintain. Several boxes of soil, seedlings, and tools were scattered around. The plants needed care, but Ethan didn't seem worried. I want to try something, Arya said suddenly. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What is it? I want to help with the garden. Ethan smiled. Are you sure? It's not easy work. Arya nodded. I want to do something with my hands, something calm. Ethan guided her to a box of small green seedlings. These are simple crops. They need water, clean soil, and gentle care. Arya touched the soil. It was warm from the sun. She felt the life inside it, quiet, growing, patient. I like this, she said softly. Ethan watched her with a warm expression. You're good at it. Arya smiled, a real, open smile that reached her eyes. She spent the next hour watering the plants, placing them carefully in new soil, and learning how to support their growth. With each movement, she felt more stable, more connected to her new life. The garden became her first real responsibility, and she embraced it. A walk into the future. That evening, Arya and Ethan took a walk through the forest path. The sky glowed orange as the sun set behind the distant hills. Birds sang softly overhead, and the forest floor shimmered with silver leaves. Arya loved this time of day. The forest felt peaceful and alive, like it accepted her presence. Ethan, she said after a while, do you think I can become someone strong one day? You already are, he replied. Arya looked down at the path. I still get scared. Sometimes small things make me nervous. That's normal, Ethan said. Strength doesn't mean you never feel fear. Strength is moving forward even when fear follows. Arya thought about that carefully. Then, I want to keep moving forward. And I'll walk with you, Ethan said. Arya felt something warm grow in her chest. Not dependency, not fear. Something gentle and hopeful. Trust. One final symbol. When they returned to the shelter, Arya opened a small wooden box she had carved over the past week. Inside, she placed the metal bracelet she had once removed, the last reminder of her old life. She closed the lid. This is my past, she said quietly. I will not forget it. It shaped me, but it no longer controls me. Ethan nodded with quiet pride. That's a powerful step. Arya felt lighter, as if a great weight had finally lifted from her shoulders. The first peaceful night that night. Arya sat outside under the stars. The sky was clear and full of bright lights. The universe looked endless, full of unknown places and futures she might one day explore. Ethan joined her but did not speak. He simply sat beside her in comfortable silence. Finally, Arya whispered, "I used to think I had no future, that I would always live in fear. But now, I feel like tomorrow belongs to me." Ethan smiled. "It does." Arya looked at him carefully. "Ethan, thank you for everything." "You did the hard part," he said. "You chose to live. I only gave you a place to start." Arya breathed slowly, letting the peaceful night air fill her lungs. For the first time, her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. Her mind didn't run toward dark memories. She felt calm. She felt safe. She felt free. A new life begins. The next morning. She woke before dawn and walked to the garden. The plants looked strong. She touched a leaf gently and smiled. This garden would grow, and so would she. Today was not just another day. It was her first day truly living. Arya stepped back and looked toward the shelter where Ethan prepared breakfast. She no longer felt like a visitor or a lost soul seeking a place to hide. She felt like she belonged. Her life had finally begun,